It is 8:47 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's the 26th day of August, 2025, and this is episode 1155 of Bitcoin and Yesterday. While cutting yesterday's episode of Bitcoin and, it became apparent to everybody but me that Google has pulled a little rabbit out of their hat, and it's not a good rabbit. This is not the rabbit. This is not the fluffy rabbit that you want. This is the bad kind of rabbit that nobody wants. And I'm going to talk about it, and then we're going to talk about a possible solution. But then I'm going to do a long read from Bitcoin Magazine about the circular economy in Costa Rica. And honestly, right now, unless something changes during the show while I'm recording, there's just not a whole... unless you want me to go over again how many companies are starting to get into shitcoinery for their corporate treasuries, and I've got that in quotes. You can't see me, but I'm air quoting there. They're corporate treasuries, because I discussed it yesterday at length, that we're seeing an alt season that's being driven by CEOs and CFOs because they're making the exact same mistakes that went on 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, you name it. They're making the same mistake. Except this time, instead of it being retail and people being duped into buying some kind of shitcoin on Twitter, this time it's people that should know better. People that have a much better worldview in terms of economics and how they work and what these technologies actually mean when they're free and running around in the wild. And yet, here we are. It's 2018, 2019, all over again, except this time it's wearing a suit. Because honestly, that is all that I am picking up as I did my morning curation for today's episode. And I'm not going to do it. It's a waste of everybody's time to talk about how Tom Lee has bought yet more Ethereum. I feel bad for Tom Lee, unless, of course, he's doing this on purpose so that he can sell his bags later and dump it on retail, as these people usually do, and then buy actual real Bitcoin with it. But it's just not worth our time. But the circular economy and what's going on in Costa Rica, I think that is worth our time, because I've always kind of thought that after El Salvador, just down south, I think you skip over Nicaragua, and then you go down south a little further, you've got Costa Rica, which is damn near a first world country and has been for quite a while. It's been a destination for American tourism for decades and decades and decades. It's clean, it's nice, it's fairly wealthy as far as Latin American countries go, and they have been dipping their toes into the Bitcoin scene for a while, and I keep thinking that they're pretty much next on the list. So I really want to get into this big read from Bitcoin Magazine about what's going on in Costa Rica. And I actually think it ties in nicely with what's going on here with Google and this Linux phone that I want to tell you about, because we either start taking things into our own hands and start building the things that have been provided to us now, or we're just going to end up in a gulag. The whole point of being able to sideload APKs into your Google phone was so that you could try out stuff that the Google people didn't really want in their Play Store. They didn't want to take responsibility for something brick in your phone. And hell, from a liability standpoint, I don't blame them on that. But they honestly just should have put a waiver up on the Play Store or some, when you buy your phone, when you buy your Pixel or whatever, a waiver that you have to sign that says, if I sideload for like APK and it breaks my phone, I will not hold Google responsible. But no, they didn't go that route, and you have to ask yourself why. So let's begin today's episode by reading this one from TechCrunch. Google will require developer verification for Android apps outside the Play Store. This is Sarah Perez writing, by the way. Google is tightening security measures around Android app distribution, the company announced on Monday. Starting next year, Google will begin to verify the identities of developers distributing their apps on Android devices, not just those who distribute via the Play Store. The changes will affect all certified Android devices once live, though the global rollout will be more gradual. The tech giant stressed that this does not mean developers can't distribute outside of the Play Store through other app stores or via sideloading. Android will remain open in that regard. However, developers who appreciated the anonymity of alternative distribution methods will no longer have that option. Google says this will help cut down on bad actors who hide their identity to distribute malware, commit financial fraud, or steal users' personal data. I'm pausing right there to say this is nothing but a it's for the children argument, because they could very easily draft a waiver that you have to sign when you purchase a Pixel phone or a Google phone or something like that. They could very well have put something in their operating system that senses that, hey, you're about to sideload an APK, you've got to sign this waiver that says you will take full responsibility for any damages that this app or apps that you're about to sideload, you take full responsibility for it bricking your phone or losing your personal data or whatever. But no, Google chose not to go that route. They could have, and it would be legally binding, and it would completely shield them from any legal action if that particular document was created right. But no. And you have to ask yourself why. Let's continue. According to its very own survey, Google says that more than 50 times more malware came through the internet sideloaded sources compared with Google Play, where it has required developer verification since 2023. Initially, Google will allow interested developers to sign up for early access starting in October of 2025 to test the system and provide feedback. In March of 2026, verification will go live for all developers, and by September 2026, any app installed on an Android device in Brazil, Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand will have to meet the new requirements. Starting in 2027, the requirements will be rolled out globally. Developers will have to provide their legal name, address, email, and phone number, which could push independent developers to register as a business for their own privacy's sake. Apple implemented a similar change for the EU App Store earlier this year to comply with the Digital Services Act, a regulation that now requires app developers to provide their trader status, and that's in quotes, to submit new apps or app updates for distribution. Google notes that student and hobbyist developers will be able to use a separate type of Android Developer Console account when this system rolls out, as their needs differ from commercial developers. The changes could have significant impact on the Android app ecosystem and app distribution as Google works to cut down on the security issues and malware that have typically plagued its platform. So that's the TechCrunch article that was being blasted out far and wide yesterday. And honestly, all it says is it does not matter. You are going to have to dox yourself if you are developing for Google, which begs the question. If Google's not in control of me getting something from GitHub, an APK from GitHub, and sideloading it into their phone now, because these guys are anonymous. Kali is a good example. BitChat. He took the code for BitChat from iOS and essentially ported it, for lack of a better term, to Android. We don't know who Kali is. He hasn't. I guarantee you, he hasn't given his phone number to somebody, his physical address to somebody, and his legal name to somebody. Not for Bitcoin and development stuff. I can almost guarantee it. Kali's not that kind of person. I haven't met him personally, but you get a sense of some of these people when you've been in the space for a while. Kali's not the kind of guy that says, hey, here's my address and phone number. I'm sure that that you having that information will be just fine. No, that's not Callie. Yet he has an app that can be sideloaded, the BitChat app sideloaded into a Google device, like a phone. How are they going to get Callie to dox himself? And I think what this all leads to is that there is going to be some kind of change to the Google operating system for their phones and whatever else you put this mobile operating system on, that there will be a change to it. And it will sense that you're about to sideload an APK, and that it will look for some kind of certificate from that APK that Google issues to a developer if they want their app to actually be able to be sideloaded into the Google phone. So I sense that a Google operating system for mobile devices is on the horizon. It will be rolled out. It will probably be certificate based. And to get that certificate, if you want to distribute, you're more than welcome to develop anything for Google OS for their phones and distribute it via GitHub. But if you want it to actually be sideloaded and work inside the Google environment, it's going to have a certificate. And the only way you're getting that certificate is by doxing yourself to Google. This is not good. And Google was the last, sort of like the last bastion. And I had always been wondering when this day would come. I honestly thought it would be a lot sooner than what we're seeing. That said, there has to be a different way. We essentially only have a couple of phone makers. You know, we've got Apple, and we've got Google, and we've got a few phone makers, right? But they only really ever use the operating system iOS or Android. Yes, there's graphene. Yeah, I get that. When will they be compromised? And I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying I can't go around feeling good about myself saying, well, there's graphene OS and everything will be fine. Which is why I want to tell you about this Linux phone. And again, this was a note on Nostr. But I'm over here at the note provided a website, and it's called Liberux. Liberux, Liberux, and you can go find it at liberux.net. That's liberux.net, and it's a handheld mobile phone. Looks to be a smartphone. It's called the Linux phone. That's what Liberux is saying. According to it's not out. They're, I guess, in the middle of crowdfunding. It's, quote, coming soon, TM. But if it does come out, you can look forward to an 8-core processor, up to 2.4 gigahertz. So it seems to be fairly powerful. It looks like a smartphone. It looks like any other smartphone that you might have. It's got a nice screen. It's nice and big. It's got a black background. It seems to display graphics very, very well. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM, dual channel, and a 2 terabyte storage capacity, which is, wow. Well, honestly, that's kind of impressive right there. So if I dive a little bit further into the specs, where was it? Oh, for God's sake, where was it? I think it's on Debian. I think that the distribution that it's using is Debian. Yeah, here it is. Liberux OS is based on Debian 13 Linux, and it's touted as being an ethical and mostly open source operating system. I guess they're talking about the Debian development itself. But it's apparently designed to have modular architecture. So what they're saying is that you can replace the RAM, you can remove the LTE 5G modem and replace it. It has interchangeable storage, error correcting memory. They're saying that it's about reuse and not obsolescence. So that could be just pure marketing. Who knows? But I would love a Linux-based phone. So I'm sure that there are other devices out there that run on Linux, but this particular ecosystem it's ripe for massive development with the same ethos and the same fervor that we're seeing development on Nostr, with BitChat, with Bitcoin, with Lightning, with eCash, you name it, man. That whole thing, this goes right along with it. So if you know more about Librix, get in touch with me on Nostr and let me know what you think. And also, let me know what else is out there. Okay, so let's just break it down right here. We've got iOS as an operating system. We've got Android OS as an operating system. We've got Graphene OS, which seems to be breaking the tide of the stranglehold that iOS and Android OS has. But what Linux-based solutions do we have for mobile smartphones with 5G connectivity or LTE or 4G or, wireless and Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the whole, what else out there exists that developers can start developing for? Because we've got to leave the Play Store and the Apple App Store behind. We've really got to start looking back at Zap Store, which is something that you can use with Graphene OS, at least as far as I know. We need more. We need a lot more than just this. But if you want to go look at the phone, again, it's Librix.net, Liberux.net. It's a good looking phone. I have to admit, man. I mean, honestly, I kind of want one of these, if at all possible. But again, it's just in development as far as I can tell. So that's sort of the spiel about the fact that we've got to get out of this. We don't have any choice. We are ethically bound at this point to be like water. Just like Bitcoin is water to the economic system, just like Nostr is water to the modern communication systems, we need water for the App Store ecosystem. We've got to be able to route around it because they're putting dams up, and all that water is looking for is the lowest point of energy entry to go downhill. Water wants to move. It will flow, and it will eventually flow over the top of the dam. We just need to figure out a way to route around this shit right now. Now. Not later. It'll be fine for like a couple of years. No, it's not fine. This is not fine. It needs to be fixed, and we need to fix it right now. Otherwise, freedom is in danger. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to take a little pause, and we're going to go in and read this big read from Bitcoin Magazine, and it's written by Gabriel Kerman. Freedom of mind and freedom of money inside Costa Rica's growing Bitcoin circular economy. And this is an excerpt from a book entitled Bitcoin Circular Economies. And this is the chapter in that book about Costa Rica. The embryo of each Bitcoin circular economy is unique. The purposes of Bitcoin circular economies are diverse, and as they grow, the projects develop their own identity: education, P2P, payments, wallets, etc. The quests of their protagonists often shape the origin of each, with characteristics and needs that define them. The founders, who decide to pursue this social, technological, and economic adventure, define the spirit of the project. The Bitcoin Jungle Project was born in the heart of the Costa Rican jungle, where a vibrant community of expats and digital nomads from all over the world is trying to develop a more conscious way of living in harmony with nature. Two men lit the spark that gave birth to Bitcoin Jungle. Over time, others joined the fire. But two were the energies that aligned to start this project. One, a developer and serial entrepreneur. The other, a journalist, a retired teacher, and democracy activist. Both shared two deeply rooted beliefs in their hearts. First, Costa Rica is the best place in the world to live. Second, Bitcoin is an enlightening technology that can lead humanity to a more peaceful and evolved lifestyle. Richard Scottford lived in Hong Kong for more than 20 years. He worked as a teacher and a freelance reporter for various media outlets, always as a political analyst. Richard witnessed firsthand the peaceful protest that began there in 2014 with the Umbrella Movement, which later became a symbol of resistance. Without mincing words, Richard supported Hong Kong's democratic struggle against the Chinese Communist Party, which imposed an election system where the people could only choose among candidates selected by the Communist Party. Through his articles, Richard became part of Hong Kong's political scene, and when his friends and colleagues began to be imprisoned, he decided it was time to take a new direction in life. At the time, Richard knew nothing about Bitcoin and admits that he crossed off the list of all the mistakes that cryptocurrency users usually make before coming into Bitcoin. Quote, "We were scammed. We lost money until mid-2018 when we started to understand the differences between Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies," end quote. The realization about Bitcoin and the profound impact it could have on the world came at a very special time in the lives of Richard and his wife. Quote, "We were in the middle-class trap, where we had everything we needed. All we could do was have more or better stuff, a better car, a fancier boat, a bigger house, or join a better club. I call it a trap because there was nothing extra to own. It was clear that our happiness was not going to change by having more or better things. We wanted to do something radically different, and that's how we ended up in Costa Rica," end quote. At first, the couple explored the diverse climates and landscapes of the country. They found many similarities with the jungles of Hong Kong, enjoyed the volcanic beaches of the Pacific Ocean, as well as those of the Caribbean. It was not easy to impress the new visitors who knew the Asian beaches by heart, and it wasn't until Christmas of 2019 when Richard would find a new meaning to his purpose in Costa Rica. Quote, "We participated in an ayahuasca ceremony in the jungle. Suddenly, 3 different ideas connected in my mind. On the one hand, I felt a call to deep dive into jungle medicine, which is central to Costa Rican culture. On the other hand, all the ideas I had about Bitcoin connected. At the time, I was precisely falling down the rabbit hole, studying and learning as much as possible. Quote, it all connected with conversations about the best way to school our daughter. It all came together. I was a teacher in Hong Kong, so naturally it came up for me to get involved with the local elementary school. Then the idea of building our own secondary school in 2020 would come up," end quote. Before long, the dream of opening his own school came to life. Quote, "I told my wife, we are going to create the first school in Costa Rica that accepts Bitcoin. And we're going to teach their kids and our kids about Bitcoin. The only thing I could think of was to send out a tweet to the Bitcoin community that said, quote, 'We are a school in Costa Rica. We want to accept Bitcoin. How can we do it?' End quote. Many people responded to Richard's request for help, including Nicholas Bertie, co-founder of Galoy and the Bitcoin Beach wallet, currently called Blank. Nicholas suggested that the best way to start accepting small payments was through a Bitcoin Lightning wallet and offered to help. He encouraged them to create a fork of their own wallet based on the open source repository of the Bitcoin Beach wallet. That was the first moment Richard realized he wasn't alone. Quote, "That's where things started to take shape. We wanted to develop our own wallet to simplify payments at school and at the same time also facilitate Bitcoin adoption in Uvita, the town we chose to live in. The problem was that we didn't have the technical skills needed to fork the Galoy repository and build it, end quote. The universe manages to cross the paths of people who need each other. Just when Richard was stymied by his lack of technical skills to launch a local version of the wallet tailored to Uvita's needs, he met Lee Salminen, a software engineer and serial entrepreneur from Boulder, Colorado. Lee is a cheerful, positive person who sees opportunity in every challenge. The combination of his technical skills, his passion for Bitcoin, and his purpose in life made him the perfect candidate to start a Bitcoin circular economy. Richard and Lee fit together like pieces of a puzzle. Lee is another core founder of Bitcoin Jungle. He was able to bring the project to life. He copied Galoy's wallet over a weekend without any support. Even the guys at Galoy couldn't believe we had done it so fast. Quote, Bitcoin is a tool to change the world, to raise the awareness of humanity, end quote. Just at that time, the first edition of the Adopting Bitcoin conference was taking place in El Salvador. Richard traveled to the neighboring country while Lee stayed in Costa Rica working on the wallet. Quote, going on that trip to El Salvador was eye-opening. No one knew who I was. Just a simple English guy walking down the halls trying to make friends saying, hi, we want to do something like Bitcoin Beach in Costa Rica. Can you help us? End quote. Seen from the outside, Bitcoin Jungle's approach seemed impossible. Copying the source code of a wallet over a weekend without technical support from the original developers was a huge challenge. Then, launching an adoption campaign without a significant amount of sats to donate and start the process. However, Richard knew that a Bitcoin circular economy in Costa Rica had potential for one simple reason. Quote, the sats were already there. I knew Costa Rica was different. There were a lot of people around me who owned Bitcoin. It was full of expats. All we needed was to create the payment rails to get them moving. The money was already here. We just needed places to spend it, end quote. Richard doesn't beat around the bush and get straight to the point because he feels he has a message to share. Quote, you have to know your community, understand and provide the services they need. It's important to learn from other circular economies, but many times the keys to success are in the differences, end quote. When Richard returned from El Salvador, Lee already had his wallet working. The excitement within the volcanoes of the Costa Rican jungle was beginning to stir the first tremors. From the beginning, the founders of Bitcoin Jungle decided to keep the efforts concentrated in a relatively small area called the Golden Triangle, demarcated by the towns of Dominical, Uvita, and Tinamaste. Instead of spreading the efforts throughout the country, they decided to focus on this particular region, characterized by spiritual seekers, surfers, and people with a deep connection to nature. Quote, although Bitcoin Jungle is spilling all over Costa Rica, in the beginning we had no plans to go out massively and try to adopt the whole country. It has always been about keeping it small, local, within our personal connections. The area between Dominical, Uvita, and Tinamaste has a lot of healers, natural medicine practitioners, and alternative people. It has this unique energy that is hard to explain but easy to feel. It is a very large area full of foreigners who receive income from their countries and need to spend it in Costa Rica, end quote. Govinda wears yoga attire and whispers in a calm voice, which conveys the vibe of much of this community of foreigners who chose Costa Rica as their new home. Govinda is another key member of Bitcoin Jungle. He runs the holistic center Awake, a sustainable hotel, with activities related to yoga and meditation. Awake is also the place where many Bitcoin meetings are held, as well as training sessions on the Bitcoin Jungle wallet. This center is also the location where the Nostr conference was held in 2023. This unique community has adopted Bitcoin as another tool to seek the elevation of human consciousness and harmony with nature. In pursuit of contributing to this balance, gaining trust within the community was key to integrating this innovative technology into their daily lives. Quote, it was the key to success of the project to have founders like Lee and Richard, Govinda explains. When the project started, there were several cryptocurrency scams going around, and they were able to explain in Spanish to the store owners the differences with Bitcoin, as well as the technical aspects of the wallet in very simple terms. They were key to developing confidence in the project and the team of people behind it. End quote. Being scarce, digital, and transparent, Bitcoin begins to demonstrate its advantages, solving problems for multiple types of people. It was worth looking into at the profile of the main users of Bitcoin Jungle. They face a different problem than the exiled families in El Salvador who send remittances back home. It is true that both projects coincide in the way they define their target influence area, seeking to concentrate the amount of Bitcoin payments per store, nurture their user experience and economic revenues with the aim of maintaining a stable relationship between the number of visitors and the length of the store network. However, the Golden Triangle population had something in common that other Bitcoin circular economies did not. As Richard likes to say, quote, most of the people in the Bitcoin Jungle community have already done the work, end quote. He refers to the fact that many of the people in Uvita and Dominical already understood how to hold virtual currencies, and many even used Bitcoin as a store of value. The team just needed to give them a direct payment system to ignite the virtuous circle cycle. Instead of paying with high-fee credit cards and constantly needing to transfer money into the country from abroad, users could simply load their Bitcoin Lightning wallet and buy whatever they needed. Quote, our main goal was pretty simple. We were focused on reducing the friction of using Bitcoin for people visiting and living in Costa Rica. Richard expounds the conclusion he came to sometime after processing the purpose that had distilled his spiritual journey. All that remained was to design an adoption strategy and encourage Bitcoiner tourism. Costa Rica is known worldwide for its paradisiacal beaches, misty jungles, exotic animals, volcanoes, and surfing. It tends to be a very attractive spot for tourism in the Central American corridor. Add its political stability, its high security standards, its motto Pura Vida, which means pure life, as a declaration of respect for nature and the abolition of its army. The result not only caught the attention of tourism within the ecosystem, but also of the community of digital nomads who began to take it as one of their permanent residencies. The community continues to expand with a growing percentage of visitors and families who decide to settle. Most are foreigners from the United States, Canada, and Europe, some seeking to escape excessive surveillance and increasing government oppression. Quote, many came here looking for a new social contract, one that works for everyone and is not imposed from a top-down approach, Govinda stresses before pausing, taking a breath, and clarifying the unwritten but community-adopted manifesto. Quote, we believe in freedom, peace, and prosperity, which are values that are deeply aligned with Bitcoin. We don't want to be told what to do. This is why I have high hopes for the rapid growth of the Bitcoin Jungle community, end quote. However, the first years of these projects, which grow into a Bitcoin circular economy, are not easy. Founders often delimit the boundaries. There are multiple ways to get involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and given the characteristics of the Costa Rican community, different models were discussed in the early days. Having a large community of tech-savvy expats with Bitcoin available to spend represents either a temptation or an opportunity, depending on your point of view, to develop a profitable business. One of the early contributors to the project was interested in pursuing this line, while the other founders wanted to build a nonprofit community endeavor. Quote, there was an interesting situation at the beginning because one of the early founders tried to turn it into a commercial project and make money from it. All the other founding members were more interested in it remaining a community-driven thing. This led to a very healthy split around 2021, and what is now known globally as Bitcoin Jungle is the nonprofit project that we decided to continue, Govinda clarifies, inviting reflection with raised eyebrows. There are multiple Bitcoin businesses around the world that follow conscious efforts of social responsibility. However, there is a reason why Bitcoin circular economies are deeply rooted as nonprofit community projects. Govinda converses while touching the air with his hands. The more he shares his thoughts, the closer he comes to the image of a shaman who can observe the inner self of people who cross his path. Quote, people can sense it. The energy is completely different if there is someone behind it who wants to make a profit, or if it comes from a sincere and genuine interest in the good of people and humanity. These subtle energies create projects with a very different spirit. We were not doing this for the money, end quote. Govinda speaks confidently of ideals. When the goal is to provide that a new social contract is possible, the words do not waver. Quote, we believe in Bitcoin and we believe in Costa Rica. We want it to be a union between technology and nature to raise the level of consciousness. We are ready to dedicate some of our time and energy to make this happen as a gift to our community and to the world. Bitcoin aims to change power dynamics of money, to break free from abusive forces that enslave us, and to reclaim our sovereignty to choose freely. Bitcoin Jungle was able to build its own identity. Another unique feature of this Bitcoin circular economy is to link with nostr, the open source communications protocol that's ideal for developing decentralized social networks. These platforms can easily integrate with the Bitcoin Lightning Network and implement micro donations called zaps for content creators. Given its unrestricted access, design, and resistance to censorship, nostr is ideal for promoting freedom of expression in the face of social control and government censorship. Jack Dorsey, the original founder of Twitter, has been living in Costa Rica for a long time and has been closely following and supporting the growth of Bitcoin Jungle. He is one of the big promoters of nostr, has funded several projects in that ecosystem, and was instrumental in creating the first international conference on this technology. Quote, Jack was one of the first people to follow our Twitter account, but he had no personal contact. One day, he tweeted that a nostr conference should be organized in Costa Rica and that he was willing to fund it if the community organized it, end quote. Pride covers Richard's face as he describes the backstage of Costa Rica, the event they organized together. After all, Richard had experienced firsthand the social control during his years in Hong Kong. Quote, we all loved the idea because decentralized social networks are very much needed today. So we reached out to him and offered our entire infrastructure and business ecosystem to simplify payments for attendees. The combination of the world's first nostr conference with the possibility of powering the Bitcoin Jungle circular economy seemed like a perfect match. Jack Dorsey gave the green light. The nostr protocol has multiple philosophical similarities with Bitcoin, and consequently, there is significant overlap between their communities. Govinda, as expected, holds space for individual freedoms alongside its inner peace. Quote, this new communications protocol has the potential to enable social networking with complete freedom of expression. We could build a decentralized Twitter on Facebook. We can talk and share ideas or images without surveillance. It's cryptographic and decentralized, like Bitcoin, end quote. Since its creation by anonymous user Fiat Joff in 2020, the nostr protocol has seen a rapid increase in usage driven primarily by the Bitcoin community. The team insisted to Jack that the event be held in Uvita to leverage and stimulate the Bitcoin circular economy. As it happened, the Nostrica conference was a success. With over 50 speakers and 300 participants, it significantly increased international awareness of Bitcoin Jungle. Quote, it really put us on a map as a destination for many Bitcoiners, Richard recalls. We already had one of the best user experiences for spending sats and enjoying Bitcoin, but many of them still hadn't heard of us before this event. The circular economy that nostr has its strongest relationship with today is Bitcoin Jungle, and that has had many good consequences. Not only did it increase the endogenous tourism of the ecosystem, The unexpected success of the conference also generated the first economic gain for Bitcoin Jungle. Quote, up until this event, everything had been self-funded. The devices we delivered to the stores, the cost to support the users, the training, the node on which the wallet runs, and so on. We don't charge anyone, not on transactions within the node. Everything is completely free, Richard humbly shares. Quote, going forward, we plan to continue doing festivals every year to further advance our community mission, so everyone is invited to the Freedom Festival in February of 2025, end quote. Costa Rica is a very special place. Many people who dream of making a positive contribution to the world, for some reason, are attracted to this country. The connection between these international spiritual seekers in Costa Rica has created a unique community in the world, combining innovation, yoga, nature, ayahuasca, and technology. In retrospect, it is understandable why this environment became fertile ground for the birth for perhaps the most important Bitcoin circular economy in the world. This transcendental aspect is present in the minds and hearts of those who make Bitcoin Jungle. Richard, who used to be a reporter clinging to the truth and transparency of democracy, continues to go through a personal transformation, though without losing his essence. Quote, I would say my main goal is the spiritual elevation of consciousness about Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is a fundamental part of this new world that we are trying to build. That's why we created Bitcoin Jungle. It's our contribution to a more conscious and free future for humanity, end quote. Those who are deeply connected to Gaia tend to perceive the cyclical nature of all processes in our universe. Human evolution has also been shown to follow recurring patterns. Many Bitcoiners have been pointing out for over a decade that we may be on the verge of a major paradigm shift. This sense of hope is palpable throughout the Bitcoin Jungle community. There is a deep shared belief that after the inevitable collapse of fiat currencies under the weight of their own debt, there will be a new beginning. Quote, there is a large community of international seekers here. They believe in freedom, peace, and prosperity, values that are deeply aligned with Bitcoin's culture. They understand how money printing and inflation create poverty and inequality. They understand how traditional institutions and governments extract value from working people. All of us believe in the sovereignty of individuals and the power of decentralized communities. This is why Bitcoin and Costa Rica are made for each other. Govinda no longer sounds like a shaman. He now speaks like the leader of a movement. He probably has a little bit of each. Either way, both he and Richard are very clear in their motivations. Quote, we're not just doing this because we love Bitcoin. We're doing this because we want to change the world. But to do that, it's important that we also change inwardly. It's a fusion between our spiritual quest, a new philosophy of life, and a technology that facilitates it. There is no way we can sustainably raise human consciousness unless we liberate the way we store and transfer value between us, Richard concludes. When people cannot control the soundness and ownership of their own money, their vital energy can be abused and manipulated. This also applies to sovereign countries when they see their foreign currency reserves being diluted by the issuers of those fiat currencies. With Bitcoin, individuals and nation states become truly sovereign entities with the ability to protect their wealth from potential confiscation. Quote, Bitcoin protects your energy in a way that no one can mess with, Govinda enthuses. Quote, before Bitcoin, we were truly free only in our souls. We have energy sovereignty as spiritual beings, but on a physical level. We were completely controlled by the elites, their politicians, and their armies. Now, Bitcoin has extended our freedom to the physical world. That changes everything. It also enables sovereignty, celebration of life, and healing on a global scale. Bitcoin is the liberation of humanity from ancestral abuse, end quote. In the case of Bitcoin Jungle, as in all other Bitcoin circular economies, Their first contact at the beginning of the project was with the Friends of Bitcoin Beach. In addition to that first inspiring trip to El Salvador and the opportunity to use their wallet code, both teams have a permanent communications channel to collaborate and share ideas. On the educational side, Bitcoin Jungle has also received support from My First Bitcoin. Quote, "We have a very good relationship with Mike and the Bitcoin Beach team. We are also very grateful to Napoleon from My First Bitcoin." Richard punctuates his mental list of collaborations. Quote, "I myself dictate his materials to the kids here at school. Whenever we meet at any conference, we try to organize a dinner between the circular economies. Thankfully, that table is getting bigger and bigger every time. Bitcoin is very powerful." End quote. The Bitcoin circular economies play a unique role in the ecosystem because they demonstrate on a smaller scale how global Bitcoin adoption can benefit people and communities with different needs. Quote, "I'm a big fan of the Bitcoin Ikasi team," Richard sums up in a demonstration of the strength that traces the invisible thread. Quote, "How a poor village in South Africa has been able to create a Bitcoin circular economy that is becoming known around the world. Richard even dreams of the day when we have conferences totally dedicated to studying these early adopter case studies. Quote, "I would love to see a conference totally dedicated to Bitcoin circular economies, with projects from all over the world coming together to share their experiences, their stories, and their lessons learned." End quote. What role will a Bitcoin circular economy play in the future? Will these early communities be the birth of a new way of organizing society? Will we see an exponential growth of pari passu BCEs with the mass adoption of Bitcoin? If today's overcrowded cities continue their decline along with fiat governments drowning in debt, it is possible that a decentralized way of living could offer a better quality of life, greater community livelihood, and deeper connection with nature. For years, the Bitcoin community has predicted the emergence of luxurious Bitcoin citadels in the future. Can a Bitcoin circular economy be a more heterogeneous and inclusive alternative to those citadels? Quote, "To me, a circular economy is the lifeblood of Bitcoin, even if many Bitcoiners haven't realized it. Bitcoin strongholds will be elitist places, designed from the top down and only for a lucky few. The great thing about a Bitcoin circular economy is that we have not been designed out of luxury," Richard expounds. Quote, "We have simply emerged from social, not-for-profit efforts with the goal of improving the lives of everyone in our communities." And that's the end of the article. Now, here's some notes at the bottom end of this article. Gabriel Kerman is a blockchain entrepreneur with more than a decade of corporate finance experience. He's a co-founder of several projects such as Rootstock, Law Bitcoin Neta, and Blockchain for Humanity. He dedicates his life to Bitcoin innovation and education. His first book, Bitcoin Circular Economies, is out this month by Bitcoin Magazine Books. Bitcoin Jungle can be found on Instagram and a few other places. You can read the article for yourself. So that's the article. I really wanted to get into this one because I believe that he's right. Bitcoin circular economies are more important now than they have been in a long time. And I don't mean that in a way that means that at one point or another, Bitcoin circular economies weren't ever important. In fact, Bitcoin circular economy is just as important now as it ever was. What I'm talking about is in the minds of humans, our perception of the importance of Bitcoin circular economies. There was a time when we really weren't thinking about it. Back in the day, it was hodl, hodl, hodl. And now we're getting into a lot more people saying, we should probably be spending our Bitcoin. Well, let me tell you, first and foremost, nobody can tell you what to do with your Bitcoin. They can make a suggestion, and you are more than welcome to tell them to go pound sand. There's nothing on my side of this microphone that is trying to suggest that you need to go spend your Bitcoin. That's for other people to say. You do whatever the hell with your Bitcoin that you want to do with your Bitcoin. It's your Bitcoin. You're 100% sovereign. And that's the core of a Bitcoin circular economy. No one can tell you what to do with your money, and nobody can tell you what the value of your money is. That's just between you and a vendor, or you and a friend, or you and your remittance partner, however it is that you want to look at it. Nobody gets to define the value of that but you and the other person. For instance, you can say, yeah, but the value of Bitcoin today is basically in dollars, and that's kind of like, the markets decide. No, I don't actually have to look at that if I didn't want to. If I'm in a Bitcoin circular economy and it's 100% Bitcoin being passed between people that are selling, I don't know, empanadas and people that are selling houses and motorbikes and boat rides out on the Pacific Ocean, that's between me. That value of how much Bitcoin I give them is between me and that person. It doesn't have to be centered on what the value is of the market. Now, most people will do that. I'm not saying that they won't, and I'm not even saying that they should or they shouldn't look at it that way. I'm just saying that nobody's telling me that I have to look at one Bitcoin as $110,000 US. I could simply say I have one Bitcoin. I think that yacht that you own, their Mr. Yacht Owner, is worth one Bitcoin, and I would like to buy that yacht. If the yacht owner agrees that one Bitcoin buys that yacht, then that yacht owner is going to sell me that yacht, and I'm going to give him one Bitcoin. Maybe that yacht's worth $250,000. Who knows? Because the value of Bitcoin is what we make of the value of Bitcoin, because it's sovereign money. For the first time, it's sovereign money. And now it becomes a conversation between two people in a true Bitcoin circular economy. And I shouldn't have picked on yacht, because owning a yacht is like, if you've ever talked to an RV owner, most of them that think that they like an RV find out that they don't really like having a recreational vehicle at all. And they wish that they had never bought it. And the same is true for even a small boat. Could you imagine a yacht? A $250,000 yacht with twin diesel 12-cylinder engines and cooling systems and electrical systems? I mean, there's a lot of people that own a boat that wish they'd never got a boat in the first damn place. There's a lot of boats that I've seen in Colorado, where I go to a house up there all the time, which is by a lake. I see a lot of people whose boats haven't moved in 10 years, and they're by a lake. It's clear that they're not all that interested in owning their boat. It sounds to me like a yacht would be a management nightmare. So let's talk about something more along my lines of what I find valuable. 10 acres of arable land in Costa Rica. How much Bitcoin is that worth? I'm not required to go check Coinbase and find the price of the United States dollar against Bitcoin. And neither is the person who has 10 acres of arable land in Costa Rica and wants to sell it to me. Me and him can have a conversation of what we think the value is. I'm not saying that happens. I'm saying that for the first time in the history of humanity, or at least the first time in the history of humanity since money was taken over and turned into essentially fiat by governments and people that have a lot of people on their payroll with guns. Before that time, when money was private, we could have that conversation about what we thought something was truly worth. But when money was taken out of our hands, and for whatever reason we said, yeah, the government should be in control of the money. Where did we get that notion from in the first place? I think it was marketing by people who just wanted to steal everything, and they, over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, figured out that most humans are just rubes waiting to be told what to do, what to believe. What color they think they're seeing is actually some other color. It is amazing what you can do to the human mind. I've seen it in marketing. It's amazing that you can sell somebody the ugliest jeans if you pay a supermodel a whole shit ton of money to get in front of a camera while she's wearing it. And all of a sudden, those jeans, even though they're fugly as AF, becomes something everybody wants. I mean, back in the 80s, there was Monchi-Chi. It was a stupid toy monkey, but the marketing campaign behind it made it one of those things where it was sold out by Christmas. You couldn't get it for your kid. Many such cases. Why do you think that money is not a product? Because that's what fiat money is now. I can tell because it's been marketed. We got marketed out of the sovereignty of our money. And because of that, we constantly have to ask a third party what the value of that money is. You see how that works? It's non-sovereign money. The only place that I can tell where sovereign money truly exists is in two places. One, a Bitcoin circular economy. And two, people that are willing to trade bricks of gold between each other physically. Not paper gold, actual standing in front of the other person saying, here's my bar of gold. Where are the keys to the house that you're selling me? Because we're standing on my new front lawn. Where are the keys? All right, that's the only time that you're going to find actual sovereign money. So, a Bitcoin circular economy is increasingly important. It's increasingly important as to how we perceive its importance. It's always been important. It will always continue to be important. How do we perceive that? That's sort of what is the make or break of all of this. And the way that I'm beginning to perceive it is that I don't have to look at the price of Bitcoin in US dollars to find its value. I can have a conversation with somebody else who is like-minded and doesn't need to necessarily look at the value. Doesn't mean they won't, and it doesn't mean I won't. It just means that we could. Whereas if we're holding fiat, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. So that's the episode for today. And I do hope you got something out of it. I think it's a really good chapter for this book. I'm becoming a little bit more increasingly interested in possibly getting this book for myself and reading about the other Bitcoin circular economies, because there's not just the Costa Rican one. These things are popping up in a lot of places. And what else does it mean? And what other ways can we live? Do we have to live the way that we're living? And I contend that the answer to that question is no. I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.